Hi BookTube, I'm here today with a review, and it's going to be of Player Piano by Kurt Vonnegut. This is his first novel. It was released in 1952. This is a novel about working, generally. That's the general theme of it. America, at this point in the novel, has become completely different after World War III. Because World War III took most of the working force, aka all the men, and at this point in the novel, I'll talk about that later, has taken them away to war. Managers and engineers are kind of left in America, and they have to compensate for this lack of a workforce. They decide to automate nearly all aspects of life and employment. I find that this novel is a good example of a dystopian where there's kind of real no dominating authority, but there's still that soul-crushing aspect. There's no thought police, there's no Hunger Games, there's no dictator. It's still quite a democratic society, but the effect on the everyday citizen is still that soul-crushing, as I said before. So then the question arises, who do you rebel against in order to fix the situation? No, I have a lot of issues with this book. It's quite obviously a first novel. It's not as well developed as his other works. For example, this is a third-person narrative with a linear plot line. I'm just gonna set it down because it's not heavy, but it's hurting my arm. Whereas his other books tend to be first-person narrative, definitely non-linear. We even have characters in his later novels that become unstuck in time. So we don't see a lot of that in this. You do see some of his writing philosophy kind of coming and being developed. So for example, he gave this piece of advice to other writers that every character should want something, even if it's a glass of water. You definitely see that in this novel. Every character has some sort of aspect to them, if it's a funny quirk or if it's a huge, thing that they're striving for. That we have that scale there. And we also get a lot of the similar themes of, poverty, dehumanization, disenchantment, and search for meaning. Okay? There's an issue I found here in the novel with characterization. So at one point you have a character who's not even sure he wants to be part of an organization, and then kind of like the next page he becomes the leader of it. I had to check to make sure that I wasn't missing pages or a chapter or I misread or something, because it, felt really rushed, and I didn't really like that. There was no period of transition there from accepting the movement and working his way up to become leader. It was also just like quick turnaround with no explanation given. I also felt there were issues with a lot of misogyny, because the woman, if they're married, they stay at home, they cook, clean, and raise children. If you're a single woman, you can work as a secretary until you're married. And women, there's an event that happens in the novel where all the men in the company are invited to this camp where they participate in activities and chum around and stuff, but even if women work for the company, even as secretaries, they're not allowed to go. It's kind of like a manly men type thing, and it was just like, I didn't really like it. I also found it was quite heavy-handed at times. There was quite a bit of a preachy bit, and I kind of, with the general theme of the book being about work, defining yourself through the work you do, I wanted to liken it a lot to Ayn Rand, or Ayn Rand, however she wants her name pronounced, whatever. But they still want the same. They both, Rand and Vonnegut in this novel, seem to want like the free enterprise, though getting there through different means, obviously. But I felt that they both kind of went about it in the same manner of being very preachy about it, and being like, oh, the best of the best and all this kind of stuff. Like, it was just, didn't like it. I did not like it. I think ultimately for me, the book suffered because I was reading it in comparison to Vonnegut's other novels, which are much better than this. So I'm definitely saying if you haven't read Vonnegut yet, if you're looking to get into Vonnegut, don't read his works chronologically, because if you start with this, I doubt that some people would be willing to move on to some of his other stuff, because it's really not that good of a book. I definitely say you should start with Slaughterhouse-Five, Cat's Cradles, Breakfast of Champions, Sirens of Titan, move on to his short stories, read something like God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater, which is really heartwarming, before you move on to something like Play Your Piano. That's just my opinion, but let me know if you've read Kurt Vonnegut and what you've thought about him, if you've read Play Your Piano, and thank you for watching.